Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the Arrowverse because 4 major Arrowverse stars have revealed something big in relation to the DCU. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos later this year. So we're going to be breaking down a couple of articles. They are Arrowverse related, but the first one is also to do with James Gunn's DC universe. One article is from Screen Rant and the other article is from Game Rant. So let's talk about the article that my good friend Andy wrote over at Screen Rant. So the title of the article is 4 major Arrowverse stars reveal what DC characters they would want to play in James Gunn's DC universe. So with James Gunn's DC universe now up and running, obviously we have the potential of Arrowverse actors showing up. There's been lots of talk about Grant Gustin potentially showing up because he said he is open to returning as the Flash, and James Gunn has stated how much of a big fan he was of Grant Gustin as the Flash. So that's like the main thing right now. Like, we haven't had too many links in regards to any other actors who were from the Arrowverse that could be potentially joining the DCU. But as Andy writes in this article, at this year's MegaCon, a Legends of Tomorrow panel was hosted by Screen Rant's own Joe Deckelmeyer, featuring Brandon Routh, Matt Ryan, Katie Lotz and Arthur Darvill. You all know who they play. Brandon plays the Atom, Matt plays Constantine, Katie plays White Canary aka Sarah Lance, and Arthur plays Rip Hunter. And so they were briefly asked about Gunn's new DCU franchise when they were asked if there were any characters that they would love to play in the DCU. Each of the Arrowverse alums shared the following responses, and we're going to break down all of their responses. So first off, let's talk about Brandon, because Brandon said Superman. Now, obviously that's the obvious answer for Brandon because he is well known as Superman. Obviously he played Superman in Superman Returns, and then in the Arrowverse he went on to become the Atom. That's what he is best known for recently. However, in Crisis on Infinite Earths, he re-showed up as Superman and he was playing a sort of Kingdom Come version of Superman, and that was super popular. Everyone was so into that. There was so much hype around Brandon returning as Superman, and his scenes were great in Crisis on Infinite Earths. So I think as a Superman fan himself, it just makes total sense that, you know, potentially he would return as Superman and that would be his pick. And I have to say, I don't feel like James Gunn would be too opposed to bringing him back, like in a cameo role, because he is a big figure in DC's history and he's played a part in 2 different parts of the DC universe. So yeah, shout out to Brandon Routh because I do love him as Superman. Now let's talk about Matt Ryan's response. So Matt Ryan said John Constantine. Now, out of all these people, I guarantee you Matt Ryan will be showing up. Like, obviously I can't 100% confirm, but there is a high possibility compared to even like Grant Gustin, and that is because Matt Ryan has played Constantine not only in the Arrowverse, not only on the Constantine show on NBC, but also in many other forms. He is Constantine in the DC animated universe as of most recently, and he's played him so many times in those various projects. And those projects aren't related to the Arrowverse, so he's already taken that step that obviously these other people would have to do. And I feel like Matt Ryan has just become synonymous with Constantine, just like how Brandon Routh, you look at him and you're like Superman, you look at Grant Gustin, you're like, that's the Flash. So with Matt Ryan, he is Constantine. Constantine sounds like Matt Ryan. That's what we all know as of the last decade or so. So I really hope Matt Ryan shows up as Constantine. Like, if they ever do Justice League Dark or if they do a Constantine film set in the DCU, it's got to be Matt Ryan. Yes, you know, Keanu Reeves is cool and they're potentially doing a Constantine 2, but that's got to be separate. That's got to be Elseworlds. That's not in the DCU. So I feel like Matt Ryan will be the DCU's Constantine. Now, Arthur replied in response to the question at the panel, Alfred. Now, that is quite far-fetched, and that is because Arthur is not that old. He is definitely not old enough to play Alfred. He could play a young Alfred, I guess, and the reason I guess that he is saying he would play Alfred is that he is English, he could potentially put on the accent and potentially fit the role when he's older. Now, obviously he is way too young, even in the DCU. If they waited like 5-10 years, he's 100% not going to be old enough unless they caked him full of makeup. So I feel like out of all of this, yeah, that's probably the least likely, but I get that he's having some fun with the audience there. And the final person to reply was Katie, and Katie said Catwoman. Now, obviously, this is just one of her favorite characters, and Catwoman is one of the most iconic characters in DC. You've seen Catwoman recently in the Batman. Obviously, that's Elseworld, so that's not a problem. Like, they will have to eventually cast a Catwoman in the DCU. I feel like Katie Lotz would actually fit the bill. She's got the combat experience. She kind of looks the part. You know, she could easily have brown hair, which is kind of like, you know, synonymous with Catwoman. Catwoman doesn't have blonde hair like Katie Lotz does in Legends of Tomorrow, but I think she would make a good Catwoman. Let me know, what do you guys think about all of this down in the comments below. I think Brandon obviously would make a good Superman again. I feel like Matt Ryan will play Constantine at some point in the DCU, and that will just be the biggest thing, because that would be a proper Arrowverse crossover. But also, as I said earlier, he is not just related to the Arrowverse. That's not where he only plays Constantine. Arthur as Alfred, not going to happen, and Katie as Catwoman sounds pretty cool. So as Andy says in the article, time will tell if the DCU will ever bring in actors from the Arrowverse franchise, but it would definitely be fun to see several of those stars getting another shot at playing a superhero or supervillain for DC Studios. But obviously they could play different types of characters, doesn't have to be the same characters as we talked about throughout this video, but it could also be the same character, and it doesn't need to be a big role. It can literally just be cameos down the line. It doesn't need to be in the next 5 years. It could be in 10 years time when they're all 10 years older, and it's maybe at that point where maybe we start looking back to the past and we honor, you know, the recent history of DC, and you're like, okay, the Arrowverse was a huge thing, let's bring in some people and let's honor it in the DCU. But for now, it will likely be quite a while before anyone from the Arrowverse gets tapped to play a role in the DCU, as Andy is saying in this article, and I completely agree. Now let's move on to the second article. This is from Game Rant. The title of this article is "There's Bad News for Arrowverse Fans in International Markets." So I first want to give a shout out to Superman Lois Season 4, the final season, because it just debuted in the UK on BBC iPlayer. So if you live in the UK, go ahead and rewatch Season 4 of Superman Lois, or watch it for the first time, because it's just so good and it's lovely having it being so accessible in the UK. But let's talk about this article. So it begins like this: Black Lightning has been a fan favorite on streaming for a while now, but that era might be over sooner than fans expected, and this is just the beginning of the end for one of DC Universe's most well-loved franchises, the Arrowverse. So while DC tried to compete with the MCU on the big screen, obviously, the CW built up a larger and more expansive interconnected universe of DC heroes, aptly named the Arrowverse in honor of its first project, Arrow. Now, talking about Black Lightning, so apparently according to this article, it's a pretty popular opinion that Black Lightning was easily the best show in the Arrowverse, which is a statement that I completely disagree with. I don't remember anyone saying Black Lightning is the best show in the Arrowverse. There's so much quality in the Arrowverse, and if we're including Superman Lois, of course Superman Lois is the best show, but if we're excluding that because it's not set on Earth Prime, well, obviously Black Lightning did join up at one point. It just wasn't the best show, guys. Like, it did go downhill a bit, and it was a shame that it did get cancelled, because I was a big fan of the cast and what they did. But outright stating it's one of the best shows on the CW in the Arrowverse, I don't know, I just really don't agree with that. Let me know, what do you guys think about that down in the comments below. I feel like it has to be between The Flash, Arrow, and probably Supergirl. Obviously excluding Superman Lois here. So let's continue with the news here in regards to Black Lightning. So the show has unfortunately been singled out to be the first on yet another chopping block for the franchise. So according to What's on Netflix, Black Lightning is slated to leave Netflix in February across international markets. So they're excluding America here. So marking the first departure for an Arrowverse show for the franchise. This is only the first domino in the line, as all the Arrowverse shows will gradually leave the streamer in international markets across 2025 and 2026, with US subscribers getting a little more time with them before they inevitably get taken off the platform for them as well. So while streaming licenses expire all the time, this really does feel like witnessing the end of an era twice in the span of a year. Obviously, Superman Lois ended earlier this year, and now Netflix is removing shows like Black Lightning. Now, I do believe this is actually just to do with the licenses, so I don't think it's any indictment on Black Lightning's quality or anything. And yes, Americans are going to be able to watch it for a bit longer, but I'm sure Black Lightning will pop up in various places so that we can continue to stream it if we want to go back and watch it. So that's the big news in regards to the Arrowverse show that is on the chopping block, and Black Lightning will be going away in certain international markets, so in different countries around the world. But that happens to lots of shows, so I don't feel like it's such a big deal at the end of the day, because I think they will pop up in different markets on different streaming services as well. So that pretty much does it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. But for now, you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.